Alright, welcome to your first video on how to integrate with a social media tool like Facebook. Um, Now, we're going to do this integration as kind of an analog to how you would interact with your own database in real life. Um, Part of the work in developing a website is writing the back end, the database, but nicely enough, Facebook has kind of already allowed us to do this. So we're going to go ahead and you know, use Facebook's work and pretend it's our own. All right, so here we are. We're at developers.facebook.com. Every major site has an API hub like this does. You can kind of tell how good their APIs are based on the quality of the documentation here. Facebook's is outstanding. It's one of the best. It's probably their greatest strength, in all honesty. It's not even something that anybody sees. It's the way that they handle data, which is so remarkable. So we're gonna go ahead here, and then in the top right you should see something. There's all of my apps that I've done here, but we're gonna create a new one. So you click Add a new app, and it's gonna prompt you for a platform to get started. We're gonna just do a website. Alright, we need to type the name. So I already have one called Graph API Test, so I would call it GHS Graph API Test 20. Well, I guess it's 16 now. You can make sure you call it whatever the name of your product is going to be. And we click Create New Facebook App ID. Is this a test version of another app? No. Category, they just need this for various purposes. I'm going to call it Education and Create App ID. Cool. All right, now what's neat is that Facebook gives you such good startup tools, and this says set up the Facebook SDK for JavaScript, which we're going to do. We're literally just going to copy this code in between the script tags, though, because we want to put it in a JavaScript file, which I'm going to go ahead and make in Sublime Text. Notice I already have a basic Bootstrap template. I've done nothing to it. We'll just use that. So here's a new file. We're going to save it in our social media project. I should probably create a new folder for JavaScript, and we'll call it myjs.js. And in it, we'll paste Facebook's code that they gave us. They're giving us their code. Thanks, Facebook. You're so very kind. I greatly appreciate you doing all my work for me. Speaking of all my work for me, the unfortunate downside of using real tools like Facebook, is that you have to make these videos every year because the APIs change every year. So forgive me if we screw up a little bit here. Anyway, here's where we were. So we took their code, setting up the Facebook SDK, which is great. Now we have to do some other setup work. It says, tell us about your website, site URL. This is really important. So if you have your own domain by now, which for some of you is possible, that's what you're going to put in here. If you don't, what you're going to put in is just googledrive.com. Okay, and this will allow us to test our Facebook integration with a Facebook like button. Let's skip that for now. We're going to just kind of skip that. And we're actually going to skip the rest of this, in all honesty, because it kind of gives us a few things, but we're a little better than this. So anyway, what this line does, is this downloads and initializes the Facebook SDK. So what we're going to be testing in this project is, you could branch out and do other things, but you have to at least be able to log the user in and get some of their data, just like you were logging somebody into your own database. So we're going to implement something called Facebook Login, and if you click Docs here, it'll take you to a page like this, and we're going to use the JavaScript SDK. And because Facebook's so great, it has all of this stuff for us. We're going to go to Quick Start. We have the basic setup. And let's go to usage examples, where we're going to go to Facebook Login. Okay. Now this is pretty basic, and this, if we copy, should go right after our Facebook init call. Okay, so Facebook.init tells Facebook to kind of initialize the the SDK using your app ID. Here's mine. Yours will be different. And we're going to paste in that login query right afterwards. And this says basically, hey, Facebook, when you're done initializing, if somebody's already logged in, don't do anything. Otherwise, try to log them in for me if you could. All right, so that's kind of where we're at now. And in all honesty, this should kind of work with a couple other additions that we need to make. But first, let's make sure our JavaScript is linked up. So say script source equals js/myjs.js. So we got to link up our JavaScript. Cool. All right. Now, here's the kind of real annoying part about doing this with Facebook and with any of these APIs. You need to have a live hosting instance for this to work. So you need to go through the process of hosting your work online. We're using Google Drive for now to help us do that. However, if you're using your own hosting, you have to make sure you do that now too. So let's go ahead and host this site on Google Drive. We go to drive.google.com. I'm going to make a new folder. And I'm going to upload my entire project folder, which was social media project. Here it is. And remember, to do this correctly, we need to make sure this is live on the web. And then, I mean, this is not necessary, but I just go ahead and make sure the index file is the same, which it is. Good. All right, so we copy the ID right here, and we say googledrive.com/host/paste, and theoretically, it should work. Which it looks like it is almost working, but it is unable to. Interestingly, it can't get any of the bootstrap styling, which is basically irrelevant to what we're doing, but that's interesting. All right, well, whatever. We'll ignore that for now. These are just errors finding the bootstrap, but the key error that we're seeing here is given URL is not allowed by application configuration. This is what's happening when you're trying to call to the Facebook API, and you need to go into your developer console over here to kind of fix that, which is what we're going to do next. So go into where your app is. So this says that. So mine was this one, 2016. Good. You'll see a whole bunch of information here. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to go to where it says settings. And you'll notice that there's a couple of spaces that are kind of blank. First of all, app domains, we need to change this to say, if you're on Google Drive, googledrive.com. If you're on something else, change that. And then in here, instead of googledrive.com, we're going to take our URL for our site and we're going to paste it here. Okay, what this does is this tells Facebook that they should be accepting requests from each of these domains. It says, Facebook, I am authorizing you to accept requests on this application's behalf from these websites. So if we save the changes there, interesting, maybe it's HTTP. Message failed. I have never seen that before. Let's refresh and try again. Maybe it's just screwing with me. It's not screwing with me. That is very strange. Okay. Hold on a sec. Take off the /host part. Everything from /host onward you can just remove. That's very weird. I don't know what to say about that. But you can just remove everything from /host onward. Okay, so once you do that, you have your URL here, you have googledrive.com here. If you reload the page, theoretically, that error should be gone. I actually got a pop-up up here because what do we think is trying to happen? It's trying to log us into Facebook. There you go. That's pretty neat. Okay, so it's trying to receive our info, our public profile. We'll look over how to edit this stuff in a little bit. But we generally want to say OK. I'm going to hit cancel for now, though. But you can say OK. Now, the neat part is what can we read from our public profile? Because this is not any fun unless we're allowed to read stuff from it. So there's actually a way to get information out of your profile when you log in with Facebook, which is kind of what we want to do with this video. So we don't need this anymore. Let's go to the docs. We're going to go back to the JavaScript Sdk, and we're going to go to Quick Start. We're going to go to Login with usage examples, kind of back to where we were. All right, so this is the Quick Start version of Login, but we need to do a little bit more. So we're actually going to go to the Login guide, and we care about websites. And let's examine their expanded Quick Start code. So down here, we've kind of already done this before, fb.init. You guys already have that. In here, fb.getLoginStatus, notice how we actually have our own callback. We want to change this a little bit. We want to write a more, I would say, robust callback. So instead of this if-else statement, let's go ahead and say we're going to do status change callback. And they've written one for us very nicely, which we're going to copy. You can put it above. All right, let's examine what this does. Function status change callback. A callback is a function that runs when something else is done. So when get login status is done, we're going to run the status change callback using the response argument. If the response's status is connected, we're going to test the API. We actually don't have that function, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. If the response is not authorized, we're going to say document.getElementByID status.innerHTML is please log into this app. We don't have anything called status. Maybe we should write one. So let's go ahead and go back to our index.html, and we'll just write a pretty, loose, paragraph thing that has the idea of status, where that can just kind of update the user what's going on. All right. Otherwise, it's going to say, please log into Facebook. Great. All right, so let's check out what happens. Oh, and then let's also say, if they do log in, document.getElementByID status.innerHTML equals you're logged in. All right, let's save and re-upload both of those and see what happens now. So we can delete the index file. We can upload the index file we just wrote. We can delete the JavaScript file and upload the one we just wrote. And then we can go back to our starter template and we can hit refresh. So it looks like apparently we're not authorized. So we haven't logged in yet, and we have to call the Facebook.login function if we're not authorized. So let's go ahead and say Facebook.login. Whoops, it's the JavaScript file. Let's try again. There we go. Let's see, I'm going to hit OK. Right, and sure enough, now if we refresh, we'll see that I am connected and logged in. Okay, so what did we just do? And if we open up this is actually their response object. So status connected. You can actually see all this information. There's an access token, which allows me to access the API. There's a user ID, which is specific to myself. It has an expires in, how soon it expires. There's a lot of information that Facebook sends back in these response objects that we'll learn to love. But that really does it for our first video, in which we set up our application and we have the basic functionality to log in. What I'm going to do between now and the next video is clean up this website a little so that it actually includes the Bootstrap CSS, and then we'll look at how to make this a little more smooth so that there's a button that says log in with Facebook that logs the person in and then steals some information from their profile. But until then, that's all for now. Hope you enjoyed.